I'm Shaleen Powell. I'm the Executive Director with the Roanoke Cultural Endowment, and today I'm joined with a colleague.
I'm Douglas Jackson, and I am the Arts and Cultural Coordinator for the City of Roanoke.
So a question I have for Doug is, I'd like to hear about all of the wonderful things that he does in his role with the city.
Well, as the Arts and Cultural Coordinator, my main thing is to staff the Roanoke Arts Commission, which is a 15-member voluntary commission appointed by council, and they are charged with advocacy for arts and culture in the community. They oversee the public art program. We have about 160 pieces of work in the public art collection. They provide recommendations to council for funding for programs from arts and cultural organizations in order to best serve the citizens of Roanoke. And then they also focus on arts and cultural planning for the city.
When was the last plan for the city compiled and published?
Yeah, we worked on that over 2011 and it came out in 2012. So that's 8 years ago now, a little bit more.
So this is a great segue because one of the initiatives that were identified in the previous arts and culture plan that the Roanoke Arts Commission compiled was the need for a sustainable funding source.
Yeah, we heard a lot about that during the many input sessions from community members, stakeholders, arts and cultural organizations. And they said, we can't have the ups and downs of our economy threaten a big part of our quality of life in the community, which is our arts and cultural organizations. And one of the recommendations was to create something like the Roanoke Cultural Endowment. So
fast forward.
Yeah. So tell me about what you do as the Cultural Endowment.
Our goal is to raise an endowment, and we are currently just past the $3 million mark, on our way to $20 million. And fundraising will never stop. We'll continue to, ideally, the ultimate goal would be $80 to $100 million. Now, once we reach the 20 million mark, we will be allocating operational grants to our arts and culture organizations. So that's where enter the long-term planning for that seed that was planted for that initiative. In 2015, the endowment officially became to be, and we're raising funds to reach that 20 million amount in order to provide sustainable funding. So we're running a marathon, if you will, but if you use an analogy to Monopoly, this is our community chest, I guess, for arts and culture.
When you think about the stresses in a time like right now with the pandemic, and the fact that, and I was just talking with the organization earlier who has been very thoughtful with their board. All of our organizations are, think about the long term, but putting money aside for the long term is another step in the process. We can't just think about it. And I was talking to the organization, and they're so well positioned right now, and they're about to do some really important things in the community that we need during this time. But they're only able to do it because they had some money in the bank. So if we have money in the bank for our organizations collectively, that can help them be more creative and responsive and meet the needs of the community.
Yeah. So just as we had experienced in the 2008 with the Great Recession, similarly to what's going on currently with our COVID crisis, the need for a sustainable source is there. And so it just begs for that the reasoning to meet our $20 million goal as soon as possible. But it is a marathon, and it's really something that the city should be proud of, having created and seen the need. There are not any other localities, so I'm not talking about state level and national level, but there aren't any localities that have this sort of model that we've created in Roanoke. And so I think that that's a really exciting thing the city should be very proud of. Well, we are reaching out to donors to make a pledge, and we take 10-year pledges. We also make sure to let donors know to not redirect any of their giving that they might already be giving to arts and cultural organizations. So we're looking for new money. We're looking for money above and beyond. any gifts that are already being made to arts and cultural organizations. But our goal right now is just to fundraise. The sooner we can get to the 20 million, the sooner we'll be able to help organizations with operational funding.
Yeah, and that's very different than the funding the City of Roanoke provides for organizations, which is very near term. It's in the next year.
It's annual.
Program dollars, only program dollars.
And both are just important.
Yeah. What are some of the highlights of your time so far?
Highlights of my time so far?
Yeah.
That's a good question. One of the projects that has brought a lot of impact and a lot of value to the city, but has also been something that has been rewarding, was the Americans for the Arts Economic Impact Study on the City of Roanoke. We had an economic impact study performed prior. The exciting thing about this was that it included so many arts organizations in the city, so many more, and it also included audience intercept surveys, 800 of them. So we were hearing from the audience on their economic impact. And so to find out, and this is right before COVID hit, but to have that benchmark, I feel like it's of $64 million in economic impact that the arts sector brings to our city. The full-time equivalent of over 1,700 jobs, full-time equivalent jobs that it brings to our city. And then also, $6 to $7 million in state and local taxes that come back into our local economy. It just showed the profound effect that as an economic impact driver that the arts play. So, and I know that is a number, those are statistics that every single arts organization can use, the Arts Commission, that's just something to be proud of. So drawing that parallel between arts and economic impact is huge.
Yeah, and it really helps people understand that kind of that economic ecosystem. And we're seeing that now, right? So if we have to close down theaters and concert halls and museums and galleries in the short term, like we did this spring, and you don't have in restaurants, even if restaurants are open, they don't have that driver. When people go out and say, okay, well, we're going to make an evening of it, or we're going to make a weekend of it, and actually stay downtown Roanoke and put money into hotels and put money into restaurants, because we're anchoring it around some cultural events. It really helps people understand it when you start looking at those figures.
It's so true. So I have a question now for you, Doug. You have just been on board for about a year now. You have completed your full year cycle in your position with the city. What has been some of the most exciting? What has been the most exciting part of that year?
I think the most exciting part of it has been watching city council, and every time I go in front of city council, just feeling the support they have and the understanding for the role that the arts and cultural amenities play in the city. And that's, I like to think about it in terms of intersections, and they are really seeing how the arts are important to neighborhoods. They're important with our wellness and mental health. They're important, of course, with the economy. They're important too with equity, and that's a focus for the city right now. Interwoven equity is a theme in the city's upcoming comprehensive plan. It's about to be rolled out, and there's a new equity and empowerment advisory board for the city council. And I feel like some of the very first things we can do that are tangible is help a neighborhood that hasn't been as invested in as some other neighborhoods, help them take on a small art project and organize around the project where they're using their voice and the talents of their neighborhood. And I don't think it's rocket science, but it's just really rewarding when you see people get it. And our council and our leadership gets it.
There is a strong emphasis on the importance of the arts. And I think that's something that I appreciate with both of our roles in our organizations, is that is something we both advocate for. And I would say 9 out of 10 times, people get it. Like, it is, it's easy to understand arts impact everyone, or have at some point in their life. Yeah.
And it's time to do another arts and cultural plan. It's time to revisit that, and we do things like that. Kind of like, okay, what would our big goal, our big aspirational goal be around the next 20 years or so? Sustainable funding, that's a great goal that would be woven into that plan, which is not just the city's plan, but our community's plan.
Yeah.
And another piece of that, I think, is what if every person in the community could tell you how the arts enrich their lives, how they help them cope with tough situations, how they help them communicate with their kids, how they help them invest in their neighborhoods. Every person, and I really believe the arts do impact everyone. But if everyone could tell you that and say it out loud, what would that be like?
It would give you a lot of goosebumps.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
I'm grateful for the work that you do on behalf of the city and also with the Roanoke Arts Commission. I think it's really important, and it happens day in and day out. And so, thank you.
Well, and back at you, because we've got to be focused on what the arts and cultural organizations and what our artists and people who are enjoying the arts and engaging the arts, we've got to be focused on what's happening today with them and how it's working today.
Yes.
But that's the immediate thing it's easier to focus on. But if we don't have someone also looking with that long-term horizon and saying, are we going to have the resources for the next step in Roanoke's evolution, we'll be missing out. And that's where the endowment comes in.
Taking it to the next level.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've really appreciated sitting here on our bench, socially distant, and just catching up and sharing what our organizations and our roles bring together to and uniquely to the city. So thank you.
Well, thank you. This has been great. We need to do this more often.
I think so.
Maybe
yeah.
this is our bench.
This is our bench.